Hi Verbling, my name is Michaela. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona, and today we're talking about modal phrases, and we're going to start with a quick review of modal verbs in general. So, Jorgen, welcome to class.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good to see you this morning. Yeah, I can hear you just fine. For me, it's morning anyways. For you, it's probably the afternoon, evening?
It's 6 p.m.
Evening, wow. We're across the world. So, Jorgen, tell me something you know about modal verbs. Could be some examples or what they do for us.
Well, you use them in the spoken language a lot.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And they, if I can remember right, it has something to do with they describe. Just a second. They describe permission, ability, obligation, prohibition, lack of necessity, advice, possibility, probability.
You're reading from a list, aren't you?
I'm looking at something on my wall actually.
Yeah, you're totally right.
They are also called modal auxiliary verbs. That means they are helping verbs because they consist of two verbs or two words.
Exactly.
And, they express shades of time and mood.
Totally. Perfect.
So
Thank
you can
Jorgen.
use them in a way that you cannot use other verbs.
Yeah, they're really unique. They're really cool verbs. Thanks, Jorgen, for all the info. And Anna Carolina, welcome to class.
Thank you.
Is there anything you want to add, Anna Carolina, about modal verbs? Maybe some you remember, examples, or anything else that you think of when you think of modal verbs?
No, teacher, thank you.
Okay.
Jorgen.
Very thorough.
Yes.
All right. Jambul, welcome to class.
Thank you.
Good to have you here today. I don't think I've had you before. Where are you from, Jambul?
I'm from Russia.
Awesome. It's really good to meet you.
Russia.
All right. Lena, welcome to class.
Thank you. Hello.
Good to have you here with us today. Lena, are you new to me or have I had you before? I think you changed your picture if you're not new.
No, it's my first class with you. It's very interesting for me to meet with you.
It's good to meet you. Where are you from?
I'm from Ukraine.
Cool. Very cool. Good to have you with us today. Rafael, welcome to class.
Hi, Michaela.
Good to have you here with us as well. How are you doing this morning? Let's see, for you it's 1 o'clock?
Yes, 1 o'clock.
Lunchtime class?
Yes. I'm fine, thanks for asking.
Awesome. And Sasha, welcome to class.
Thank you. Hi.
Hello. Where are you from, Sasha?
I'm from Russia.
Russia. Awesome. All right. And we've got one more. Carolina, welcome to class. She's probably still loading. All right. So now that we've welcomed everyone to class, we're going to talk a little bit about responsibilities today while we talk about modal verbs. But actually, let's get some examples of modal verbs. Sasha, can you think of any examples of modal verbs that you've used or are commonly used?
Have, must, might, should, would, could. Many of them I use every day.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of them. So like Jorgen mentioned earlier, they're helping verbs. So we combine them with a main verb. So if we want to say our main verb is run, we're going to modify that verb usually it involves our intention. Like I might run later today. There's a possibility. Or I would run, meaning I desire to run, but it might not happen. So it kind of helps us alter very subtly what we're trying to say. We use them a lot in conditionals, obviously, although our focus today is not necessarily going to be conditionals. Now, Ahab, welcome to class. And Carolina, did you get everything working? Are you here?
Teacher, thank you.
Hi, teacher. I am here.
Awesome.
Good
Okay, we
morning.
got everyone online. Great. So what we're going to focus today is actually one step beyond normal modal verbs, because those, I mean, we will work with those probably as well, but we are going to work mostly with modal phrases. Has anyone ever heard of that? It's like a multiple word modal chunk, basically. So one you guys have all already heard of for sure is have to, right? So most modals, they're just one word: might, must, would, could, should, things like that. But today we're going to work with things like have to. I have to take out the trash. So we need both have to and then combine it with the actual verb, right? So it's a little bit different, it works a little bit differently than most of the other modals. We're going to learn more of those because there's a lot and they're not that commonly talked about. As we get into this, we're going to start talking about our responsibilities, and I want to know what your responsibilities are. So we'll kind of come up with some creative ideas, and these will help us make sentences in the class as we go along and we learn about these modal phrases. Let me hear about your responsibilities. I want to know what your responsibilities are around the house, at work, with your family, with your friends, any kind of responsibility you have. And I'm going to start with Ana Carolina. Tell me, what are some of your responsibilities?
Okay. I have to work. I have to study. I'd better go to work out to be in good shape.
Mm-hmm.
What else? I have to keep my things clean and organized and tight and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all.
All right, that's a good list. Thanks, Ana Carolina. Now, Carolina, what are your responsibilities? Carolina, are you there? All right, I'll come back.
Yes, teacher, I am here. Sorry,
Awesome.
my computer is slowly now. Okay, my responsibilities are I have to clean the dishes. I have to study more. I have to go to the dentist. I have to work. I have to I don't know. I have to make my bed. I don't know how can I say that.
Yeah, make my bed. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have to look after my cats. I have to feed her because
Feed them.
feed her because she's 18 years old, so she's a little older, and I have to feed her 3 times per day. And I don't know, no more.
That's plenty. Thanks,
Yeah.
Carolina. Jambul, tell us some of your responsibilities.
No. No, sorry.
You don't have any responsibilities?
Sorry.
That's okay. I can let you think a little more, and I'll come back to you later in class. All right, thanks, Jambul. Ahab, how about you? What are your responsibilities?
I don't have many responsibilities.
Lucky guy.
As long as I don't have kids, maybe.
All right, so what are some of them? Even people without kids I have
Yeah, maybe.
responsibilities.
School maybe. School. Yeah, I have to go to school. I have to.
Totally.
Yeah. Uh, work. Work. Maybe like just part time.
Mm-hmm.
We have to. What else? Small things, but
Mm-hmm.
nothing
Small things
special.
can be important too. Like what? Give us a couple small examples.
Keep in touch with friends.
Yeah, totally. That's important.
Yeah, keep in touch with family also.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Cool. That's good.
then,
That's enough.
yeah.
Thanks, Ahab, for sharing a little bit of your life with us. Jorgen, your turn. Give us some
Yes,
responsibility.
I ought to start running again in the woods.
You run in the woods?
Yeah, I ought to begin running again in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Better, and since running helps me study, I have to start running again, and also I ought to be more nice to people, and I have to try to control nice.
I'm having a little trouble hearing you. Your audio is going a little nuts.
What did you say?
Your audio is kind of funny. Sometimes I can hear you normally, and then other times there's like all these beeping noises instead of your
Yes,
voice.
I can repeat what I said.
Yeah, go ahead and repeat the last couple sentences.
I ought to start running in the woods again because I have to study hard, and running and exercising helps you study. I also ought to be a nice. Sorry. I also ought to work with my temper since I'm supposed to be a nice guy. Therefore, I have to be aware of how I react to things and how I treat other people. I really ought to work on that.
Those are some good ones.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Lena, what are some of your responsibilities?
Okay. I have to care for my children. I have to care for my husband. I have to prepare every day a meal. I have to clean my house. I have to earn money, and I have to pay taxes, and I have to be honest with my family and with my lovely people. I have a lot of responsibilities.
Seems like it, yeah. You're going to have an easy time making sentences today. You got plenty of responsibility.
Yes, and I have to be pretty lovely, good wife.
Wow, that's a lot. That's heavy.
Yeah. It's responsibility too.
All right, you've got a lot going on, Lena. Thanks for sharing. Raphael, how about you? What are some of your responsibilities?
In the morning when I wake up, I'm supposed to take the garbage out before going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's going to be a lot of garbage by the end of the day when I come back. And at work I have to write reports for my boss because once we don't work together, I have to update him about my activities and my duties, and about my progress. When I got home, I have to cook my own dinner since I live alone and I don't have anyone to do this for me. I have to, and that's it. That's my basic routine.
All right, cool. Thanks for sharing. So, you guys all have a lot of responsibilities, and I heard a lot of have to, which is a really good and useful modal phrase to use. And today we're just going to be going over other options, because sometimes you use have to again and again and again when you could use a different phrase. And I heard some of you guys try and use some other phrases, but we're going to just learn a little more. Hopefully everyone will pick up a new phrase that they haven't used before. So the first few that we're going to work with are have to, which is important, but you guys probably already have a good grasp on. We're going to work with supposed to, which I heard a couple times in the sentences you guys said, ought to, which I heard as well, and also meant to, which I don't think anyone used, but it's kind of a cool phrasal, modal phrase to know. So we're going to talk a little bit more about those and how we use them, and then we'll get some practice. So let's just go with the basic have to. Ana Carolina, will you read that part for us?
Yes, have to is the same as must, but it sounds less formal. It implies that you don't have a choice. John has to go to work every day. The students have to study tonight.
Awesome, thanks. All right, the next one is supposed to, and we're going to write some sentences with this one. But first, let's read it. Carolina, will you read the supposed to section for us?
Okay, teacher. To be supposed to means an obligation. It is something that you should do or something that another person expects you to do. Don't forget to use the verb be in front of supposed to. Sally is supposed to meet her friend tonight. All of the employees are supposed to attend tonight's meeting.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So this one we're going to write sentences for. This one is something that's another person's expectation, but that you have the opportunity not to do. And I heard Rafael give a pretty good example of this one when he said, I'm supposed to take the trash out before I go to work. That's what he said. And I think it's a good one because it's like maybe his wife expects him to do that, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to. Maybe sometimes he forgets, or maybe sometimes he feels lazy and doesn't do it. So he kind of has an option where when we say have to, it means there's no option, it's necessity, it's obligation. But when we say supposed to, you're kind of saying like, yeah, it's kind of an obligation, but I still might not do it. So maybe I could say something like, well, I'm supposed to do my homework today, but I would rather go party, right? So we have kind of a more subtle meaning here where you can get out of it or it's someone's expectation, but you might not do it. I'd like everyone to write an example sentence of this in the chat box. Get creative and use your own life and your own ideas to make these sentences.
What chat should we use? The verbing chat? Or?
Whichever one is better for you. If you guys need me to switch them, I can always copy paste to the other chat box. And if you guys have questions while you're writing about vocabulary or anything else, this is a great time to ask. Ana Carolina writes like the wind. She's so fast. We've got a good sentence from her in here already. I'm not supposed to post things on my Google page without thinking about it before. Awesome. So when you say your Google page, what do you mean?
Everyone has a page on Google.
Oh, I see, like your Google profile?
Yes.
Got it. Yes. Yeah, that's important. You got to think about who's looking at it and what they might think about it. So sometimes you do that anyways. Like you shouldn't, but you sometimes do it.
Not anymore.
You've learned your lesson, huh?
Yes.
Good. All right. And you can write another sentence if you have time, Ana Carolina. And everyone else can take their time, come up with a good sentence. No rush. I'll give you guys another couple minutes, and as they start coming in, we'll read them and talk about them. Awesome. I see one in the Verbling chat box. I was not supposed to buy that table, but it was so wonderfully, teasingly red standing there all alone. I love your adverbs. Those are awesome. Wonderfully, teasingly red. You're a poet, Jorgen.
Thank you.
And that's a great sentence. No corrections to be made there. All right. We've got a couple more. I'm supposed to be really nice and polite with everyone, no matter the situation. Awesome. So Anna Carolina is supposed to be nice. People expect her to be nice, but that doesn't mean she always is. You know, everyone has a bad day. Sometimes she's having a bad day. Maybe she's not so nice. Although I can't imagine it. All right. I'm supposed to propose a better alternative to the client. Otherwise, my company won't clinch this deal. Awesome sentence. The word clinch. Oh, clinch. Okay. All right. That's a good one. Won't clinch this deal. Interesting. I like that one. So everyone is expecting him to come up with an idea, and he's hoping he does, but maybe he won't. Excellent sentence. Just waiting on a couple more. If you're still writing, take your time. And if you don't get your sentence in while we're still on this section, still put it in and we can always talk about it later or after we read the next section. So I'm supposed to be smile with my colleagues at the office, but sometimes I have a bad mood. Yes, I know just what you're talking about, Lena. Happens to everyone every once in a while. So I have a couple little corrections for that sentence. We need the verb to be before supposed to. So I am supposed to smile. So you have the verb to be after instead of before. Just a little reorganization there. And I would say at my colleagues. At my colleagues. In the office. But sometimes I'm in a bad mood. So we've got a couple prepositional errors there. Nothing super difficult to fix, though. So I resubmitted your sentence.
Thank you for correction.
Of course. Next one, I'm supposed to polish my car. However, it is raining right now. Yeah, how can you polish your car when it's raining? Awesome. Thanks, Carolina. Perfect sentence. So, supposed to run, he just kept standing there.
The past participle of suppose.
The past participle of what?
Of suppose. It's a participial phrase, I start.
Oh, so you're talking about when someone says like, oh, I suppose, or are you talking about something else?
No, it's a participial phrase, supposed to run. He just kept standing there. Suppose is the past participle of suppose.
That's true. But we need a subject there, unless you're trying to say something else. So you can say, he's supposed to run, but he just kept standing there. Is that what you mean?
It's like, if I can find something else. But it's the past participle of suppose.
Yeah. So why would you use the past participle there, though? Are you trying to make like a perfect
Well, it's a man that was supposed to run, and he just kept standing there, like if you see a track runner supposed to run.
If you put the subject before, like the man was supposed to run, he just kept standing there.
No, because it's a description, like looking at the sun. He's something else, you know. It's a
so you mean you want a gerund?
No, it's a participial phrase.
The way that it's written, it doesn't make much sense. I'm not sure I understand what you were trying to write. So looking at the sun works because we're using a gerund there, not a past participle.
No, I don't think that looking at the sun is a gerund. It's a participial phrase. It's a past participle.
But the word looking is a gerund. It is.
That's the present participle in this sentence. It's not a gerund in this sentence.
Right. I mean, we can call it a gerund, and people do, but technically you can call it a present participle also. But the reason that it works, right. The reason that it works, yes.
Looking at the sun is a participial phrase. Just like running after the cat or something like that.
Yes, and it works like that if you use the ing form. So running is my favorite sport, looking at the sun, blah, blah, blah. But in your sentence, that's not what you have. I see where you're going. Present participles.
Yes, it's just present participle, looking at the sun. That's a participial phrase.
But how can you change your original sentence to make sense? Your original sentence doesn't really mean anything.
Supposed to run, he just kept standing there. Well, that gives sense. If you're writing a story about someone who is supposed to run when the gun sounds, and he just kept standing there, it's a description.
Okay.
Supposed to run, he just kept standing there. That's a description in a story where you describe something. Supposed to run, he just kept standing there.
Okay, I mean, if you want to write it like that, I won't stop you, but it doesn't make very much sense to me, so I don't know. You can try it. Maybe it's poetic. You're a pretty poetic guy. All right. Finished with supposed to. I think we all got our sentences in, right? Was there anyone who didn't get a chance to submit a sentence? We've got one more sentence that Lena submitted. I'm supposed to eat health meal, but sometimes I like fast food. Yes, it happens to us all. Healthy, so we got to have a Y on the end and no I. Healthy. Oops. And also we need an article, so a healthy meal. But other than that, it's perfect. Thank you, Lena, for your contribution.
Thank you. I need some practice.
All right. So let's go on to ought to. And these I heard a few times when you guys were explaining your responsibilities. So this one should be no trouble for us. And let's have Jambul read this section for us, the highlighted words.
Ought to means as suggestion you should choose something, but you don't have to do it well. Out to clean the house, Philip out to help you with your homework.
Thank you very much, Jambul. Excellent. So we're going to talk about ought to. And ought to is very similar to should, but just a little more formal. So if you're using a more formal register, but it basically means the same thing. Let's come up with a couple examples, write your sentences in the chat box, and then we'll move on. This one should be a quick one. Mohammed, welcome to class. He's probably still loading up. I got one sentence already. We ought to arrive on time at the work. Very true. Very true. I wouldn't put an article there because we're talking about work in general. We usually, if you're talking about like your work, we usually don't use the article, kind of like home, I'm going home. We don't say I'm going to the home or anything like that. So I would take the article out of that. We ought to arrive on time to work. Ought we stay until the end of the presentation? Interesting. I like that. So Raphael is playing around with questions, which I think is a good idea because sometimes we'll write a bunch of sentences in class and then all of a sudden you realize you're not sure how to make it into a negative sentence or a question or something like that. So I'm going to reorganize this sentence a little bit, this question. So if you were going to write it like this, we definitely need to, right? Because today we're working with these phrases that have multiple words, ought to. So I would say probably the most common way to form this would be something testing. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, got kicked out really quick there. Don't know why. Gonna put my screen share back up. And we were talking about, oh, I don't see the Google sentences anymore. What happened? Dang. Okay. Well, we were working with Raphael's sentence. Raphael, would you send your sentence one more time so that I can see it? Because when I got kicked out, it deleted all of my Google chat. I can't see the Google chat anymore. Sorry about that, guys. And anyone who wrote a sentence after Raphael, resubmit it or put it in the Verbling chat box, which the Verbling chat box keeps all of the sentences, so that's a lot more convenient for us. Okay, excellent. So, ought we stay until the end of the presentation? So, we definitely need to add in to, which is what I was explaining when I got cut off. So, ought we to stay until the end of the presentation would be better. Ought we to stay until the end of the presentation? We ought to study. We ought to study articles. I ought to exercise. These are all good. And what about if we were going to make this negative? Because now that we were talking about questions, I think it's important we go over negatives as well. How would you form a negative? Does anyone have an idea about what a negative sentence would sound like if we were using ought to and a negative plus a main verb?
Shouldn't, maybe.
Well, shouldn't works, of course. It's a different modal verb, but that works really well. But what if we want to use ought? We want to use ought, and we want to use, there we go, we've got one in the chat box. I ought not to binge on chocolate. Yes, it sounds like a very British phrase for some reason. ought not, or you can also make it a contraction and say oughtn't. I oughtn't to binge on chocolate. And we've got one other sentence. My children ought to help me at home, but they are so lazy. Yep, oughtn't. So we've got the apostrophe T, just like you wrote it, Anna. Great job. And one more sentence in the verb link chat box. My children, oh, that's the same one. My children ought to help me at home, but they are so lazy. All right. Okay, let's go on. Next sentence. So quick note, notice that all of these words are modals. They are followed by a verb. So that's obvious. We kind of already talked about that. And we have a few more examples here. We'll just read these really quick. How about Lena? Will you read the highlighted words there? Lena, are you there? You're muted, Lena. I can't hear you.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Yes. I have to do my homework. If I don't, we'll be in trouble. I am supposed to do my homework. If I don't, my teacher will notice that I didn't do it. I ought to do my homework. I don't have to if I don't want to, but I feel I should do it because I want to do well in the class.
Excellent. All right, so that kind of helps you compare those modal phrases in like the exact same context, so you can kind of get a better idea of the subtle differences between them. Do you guys have any questions yet?
I have.
Yeah, what's up?
Can I use ought to in present progressive? For instance, ought we stay in this room until the end of the presentation?
No. So we always need the simple form of the verb after a modal phrase. And that goes for any modal phrase. Like when you say I might or I may or I must, it's always the simple form. I might go, I might run, I may, I should, I ought to, do. So we always use the simple, not the gerund form.
Okay.
Well, that was a really good question. Any other questions? All right, then we will move on. Yeah.
Is this model verb common in speaking?
Yes. So obviously, have to is very common. Supposed to is also very common. Ought to, like I said, it's a little formal, so you see it more in writing than you do in spoken English. And I will also say that in British English, it's a lot more common than in American English. So I don't hear it as frequently, though it is a really, like, it's a common phrase everyone knows. And in British English, it's more common. But in American English, it's not used that much in spoken. We usually would use should instead.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're going to do a little fill in the blank, and you guys are going to choose which one is correct for the blank, just kind of comparing the subtle differences between them. Number 1, how about Mohammed? Will you read number 1 for us and decide if ought to, has to, or is supposed to is better?
Willie needs money to pay for his food and house. If he doesn't go to work, he won't have money. He must work. I think Willie ought to go to work.
Ought to. Okay. So why do you say it's ought to?
Because it is a must.
True, it is an obligation. Does everyone agree with him?
No, I don't agree.
Why not?
Because I think it's a responsibility. So you have to go to work. You haven't another. You have to work because you will lost this work.
So I kind of agree with you there. I think B is better for this answer, although I will say that there is some opinion here because but yeah, I think has to because of the context we have. What they're setting up is like a really strong necessity, right? He needs to. If he doesn't, he won't have money. He must work. And has to is a little stronger than ought to. So that's why I would pick has to. All right, let's try number 2. And Rafael, will you do that one for us? Let me scroll down so you can see it.
Johnny should help his mother with the housework. His mother would be happy if he did, but if he didn't help her, his mother wouldn't feel bad. John is supposed to help his mother.
Okay, supposed to is an option. And why
I think ought to is also suitable for this answer.
Yeah, I think ought to. For me, ought to is the best answer here. But again, there's some opinion. Like there's because it is about what you feel is your personal responsibility. There's kind of some opinion. I would go with ought to though. But both are good answers. I think has to is not so good for this one. Thank you very much, Rafael. Number 3. Back to the beginning with Ana Carolina.
Jovan wanna be a nurse. To become a nurse, it's necessary to go to nursing school. Jovan is supposed to go to nursing school if she wants to be a nurse.
What do we think? Supposed to?
No. Maybe. Well, has to.
I think has to works the best here. You're right, because it's like something that's really necessary, right? Like there's no option. If she wants to become a nurse, only the way that she can go is to nursing school. There's no other option. So I think has to works the best for this sentence. Number 4, it's Carolina's turn. Go ahead.
Okay. Tom's friend is waiting for him at the gym. They make plans to meet at 6. His friend will be upset if Tom doesn't go. Tom ought to meet his friend or is supposed to.
All right, so both of those are good. I would choose supposed to, because here we have this situation where you have somebody else's expectation, right? So Tom's friend is waiting, and Tom's friend is expecting him to be there, which is why I think supposed to works really well. And we've just got one more. Jambul, will you try number 5 for us?
Sorry, repeat please.
Will you try number 5 for us? I'll highlight it for you.
Okay. Lisa tells National Nevan that he would be a good manager that she sugar that he apply for a job as manager. Never in going to think about that Lisa thinks nothing. Never been be a manager. Yeah, a out to be is supposed to see his too.
So you think supposed to is the best? Is that what you said?
Be a out to.
Ought to?
Yes.
Everyone agrees? What do you guys think? Ought to?
Yes.
Yeah, I think ought to is the best one for this situation. All right. Thank you guys very much. If you need the answers, they're back here. But of course, we just went over them. But if you guys are using this document as practice, I put them there in case. So now we're going to talk a little bit about meant to, the only one that we haven't gone over, or I guess we have a couple more that we haven't gone over, but this is the next one we're talking about. And Jorgen, will you read the first highlighted part? I'm glad to see you back.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
All right. So go ahead and read this part for us. It's a lot, but we'll talk about it.
What about meant to? They are freely interchangeable in many everyday contexts, but there are differences in the tone of voice. Meant to has a more philosophical sound, as in faith, while supposed to might refer to a transgression or snafu of some sort. For example, despite the best efforts of the director, the actors, and the rest of the crew, the movie didn't do well. It just wasn't meant to be a blockbuster. Try substituting supposed to here and it sounds way wonky. Despite the best efforts of the director, the actors, and the rest of the crew, the movie didn't do well. It just wasn't supposed to be a blockbuster. Well, what can I say? It was supposed to be a blockbuster. Unfortunately, it wasn't meant to become one. So the context matters.
Okay, so meant to is kind of more like fate or destiny, right? Like Romeo and Juliet were meant to be together, and then something happened and it didn't really work out. But we're talking about like destiny or fate. So give meant to a try in the chat box. We're going to come up with some sentences and talk a little bit about how it works. All right, some people say that everything in life is meant to be. Yeah, that's a great way to use that phrase. I wasn't meant to be a doctor. Yes, excellent. So if you already wrote a sentence, you can keep writing. And everyone else, you guys can take your time and form a sentence that makes a lot of sense. And I'll also mention that there's really two ways to use meant to. There's the way we're using it right now to talk about like destiny or fate. And then there's also meant to as in, oh shoot, I meant to take out the trash, but I forgot. And that would be talking about my intention, right? So I intended to take out the trash, and then I didn't. I forgot to do it. So those are the two different ways that we can use this modal phrase. I was not meant to be a serial killer, but I stepped on a cornflakes on the floor. Oh my gosh, I love that joke. That's so cute. Just one little error, though, is you have cornflakes with an S, but you have a, which is obviously singular. So you can say a cornflake or I stepped on cornflakes, whichever. That's a really cute one. And we've got one in the VerbLink chat box. She was meant to die. The butcher lied. Oh, butcher. Got it. Okay. She was meant to die, the butcher lied. Whoa, that's a pretty intense sentence, Jorgen. Thank you. It's a great one. Next up, in spite of a huge effort to reestablish the peace in that area, those two nations weren't meant to exist beside one another. Wow, great sentence, very political, and yeah, sometimes it totally seems like that. People just can't get along. She wasn't meant that this work would be hard. Interesting. So in that case, I would say I would switch that around a little bit. I might say something like, the work wasn't meant to be so hard for her, maybe?
Maybe. But this modal verb is new for me.
It's tough to use, yeah.
I don't used it. I didn't use it.
So all you have to do is make sure that the subject and the descriptor match. For instance, you could say, she wasn't meant to work that hard, so she was doing the work, right? She wasn't meant to work that hard, meaning she was a very frail person and she couldn't stand the work. She wasn't meant to work. Or you can say, the work wasn't meant to be so hard for her because the work was hard. So just as long as they match up, it works.
Mm-hmm. Give me this example without not.
Give you an example of what?
Without not. Without.
You mean with the same sentence and context, but just without the negative? Okay.
Our examples only with not, with negative meaning.
Ah, I see. So you can say, I was meant to succeed, to be a simple sentence, or you can say, or like the example we have, it wasn't meant to be a blockbuster. You could say, it was meant to be a blockbuster, but it was meant to be a blockbuster. You could say that. It was meant to be a blockbuster, but it didn't work out. Like maybe somebody got in the way of fate, right? But it kind of depends on your ideas around fate. Because if it was meant to be a blockbuster and it wasn't a blockbuster, then was it really fate? It gets into very philosophical territory here. But you can say, like, I was meant to be a star, right? I was meant to be an actor. Maybe I have all the qualities of an actor. So I can say, it never worked out. I'm not an actor. But I was meant to be an actor. Like, I've got all the qualities of it. Does that make sense? Sometimes I don't give great examples.
Yes. Can I give example? I was meant to think about this problem. Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's a good example. So it's not an easy one. All right. Any other questions before we go on to our last one? Our last modal phrase? We've got a really fun one next. So after this, we're going to talk a little bit about had better. And I think I heard Anna Carolina use had better in the original sentences when I asked about your responsibilities. It's a super fun one, and it's slightly informal. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of an example here. It's something that's frequently used with kids, and it's similar to should, right? So let's pretend we have a 9-year-old child, and your child says, I don't want to do my homework, Mom or Dad or whatever. And instead of saying, you should do your homework, that's like a really polite thing to say, right? You should do your homework. But because we have this annoying 9-year-old child, we're not going to say, you should do your homework. We're going to say, you had better do your homework, right? So it's kind of almost like a threat, and you're implying that there's a negative consequence. So it's a more intense or more extreme form of should. So you're saying, like, it's a good idea, and also, if you don't do it, there is going to be a problem. So it's something that kind of is almost like a threat. Like, there's going to be an issue and a problem if you don't do what I am telling you to do right now. So it's a little more extreme. Do you guys have any questions before we try some sentences?
No.
Awesome. Then let's just read these ones out. Jorgen, would you like to go first and give us a had better, a sassy threat
I
kind
had
of a
better go
sentence?
first.
Excellent. I had better go first. Yeah, you had better set a good example for us.
So where's the I can't see the text.
Oh, do you want to see the words? It just has the.
Can you share the screen?
Yeah, of course. This is all I have. I don't have anything that actually. I just wanted us to play with this one. I figured.
Make a sentence up?
Yeah, go ahead and make a sentence up. I'll write it here so that we have a good example.
I had better listen to the teacher when she, when she teaches me about participial phrases and gerunds.
All right, good sentence. Thank you very much, Jorgen. And how about Lena? Do you want to go next?
Okay. I had better wake up early to learn English.
Awesome. All right, so the negative consequence would be if she doesn't wake up early, she doesn't get to learn English. Womp womp, very sad. Rafael, give us a had better sentence.
Can I use this in a more formal setting?
Not really. So this is kind of informal because it's sort of like when we use formal phrasing, a lot of it is super polite, right? So you use all these extra words to make it very polite. And just because this is not a particularly polite thing to say, it doesn't work really well in a formal setting. But you can try it, and we'll talk about the context a little bit. So try a sentence, and then we'll talk about it.
The mankind had better look more carefully to the environmental issues.
Okay, that's a good one. Okay, so that's a good one. It's a little more formal. It's kind of like idealistic or something. Mankind had better. But I think it's good because it implies that there's a negative consequence, right? If we don't look more carefully, then we're all going to be in a lot of trouble. So I think that one works really well. Thank you, Rafael. Ana Carolina, do you have one for us?
I'd better shape up.
I'd better what?
Shape up.
Save up, like money?
No. Shape up.
Sorry.
Shape.
S-A-P?
S-H-H. P.
Oh, shape up. Got it. Okay. Yes. Ooh, I like that phrase. I'd better shape up. Yeah, so better get myself in order or negative consequences. Awesome. Thanks, Ana Carolina. Carolina, you're up next. Do you have a sentence for us?
I have better close the window because it's cold outside.
Yeah. It's cold outside. Awesome. And last but not least, Jambul, do you have a sentence for us?
No.
That's okay. Do you understand? Do you have any questions? No questions?
No.
All right.
Sorry.
So,
No.
thank you guys all for being here and participating in class. Do you guys have any other questions about anything? It doesn't have to be about this. It could be about anything. No? All right, thank you guys so much, and I hope to see you again soon. I have a couple other classes today, and I plan some for the next few weeks, and I love seeing repeat students. Thank you guys for coming back, and for everyone who's new, I hope to see you again.
Yes,
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Michaela, just a moment. Okay, bye-bye.